we welcome that. But you know, a lot of things are coming up. The nuclear posture review is going to be released last December 1st, and now I think the latest we heard there's April 1st might be what would come out. I have a theory of why that is a good thing, that I can hypothesis. But it's also the start. Follow-on is being negotiated in the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which has languished in the Senate for a decade, might be called up again for a ratification vote. So we don't know what's in the nuclear posture review. We're going to have to speculate. We get out very, very tiny little atoms of information, hints of what might be in there. The people who are writing it have these seminars where they want to get ideas, but all the flow of information is one way, and they're being very, very tight-lipped about what is actually in the report. And it might be that it's actually changing up to the last minute, because now it's getting to the level of the president, and maybe one reason why the delay might be good is that he's not getting what he wants, and so he's sending it back for a rework. So, but some of the hints that we've got, Hansen has got, is that the NPR will describe more of a process than will a doctrine. And I worry about this. I think this is the president's opportunity to set forth clearly his vision of where the world ought to go, and how we're going to get to a nuclear-free world, rather than simply making a statement that that's a good goal to try to work toward. Is it going to have enough specificity to allow us to reevaluate requirements? For example, there's a big debate having to do with what is, we need to make our weapons more reliable. Well, it's almost impossible to discuss that in any intelligent way if you don't know what are your nuclear weapons for. How do I make a decision between, well, is 98 good enough, or do I need 99, or maybe 90% reliability is good enough? I can't have that discussion unless I have a clear explanation of what we're supposed to be doing with nuclear weapons. And so I hope that the NPR will contain that degree of specificity. And the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that unless it's a very modest incrementalist document, and this is going to be a different kind of NPR, because if it does contain enough specificity that we can change the kinds of weapons that we need, and the kinds of deployments we're going to have, and as Hans will talk about, really fundamentally change the war plan, then it's going to be a sales job. You're going to have to convince Congress, you're going to have to convince centers of power in the military and in Congress that this is something to be done. So normally we think of the NPR as, oh, the president simply sends down this declaration. This is what my nuclear posture is going to be. And then everybody says, yes, sir, and salutes, and the Congress will show great deference to that. The Congress in general does show great deference to the president of nuclear weapons. We forget that the only military forces that the president has direct control over are nuclear weapons and the Marine Corps band. Right? So the president has a special role with nuclear weapons. But if he tries to do something radical, then he's going to get pushback. And so this NPR, if it's going to be more than an incrementalist document, is going to have to be more than simply a declaration of doctrine. It's going to have to be a persuasive document. So it's going to be new in that regard. It should be new in that regard. We don't know what it's going to be. But I think that these are things that we need to be alert to and be ready to ask questions about when it does come out, which I guess it's now April 1st or something like that is the latest guess. Okay? So, and with that,
no fooling.
No fooling, yeah. And Hans probably, I'm confident Hans knows more about the actual process of nuclear war planning of anybody outside of Omaha. Okay? And I should also point out that we are the Federation of American Scientists, but he's a Dane, so that's particularly ironic. And so one of the questions is that there's so many layers of decision and interpretation between the president saying something and what actually gets decided in the war plan. How does this direction affect? You could imagine that you could take the president's directive and just put a minus sign in front of it, and there wouldn't make any difference down here at all unless all of those mechanisms and all of those layers work. So Hans will talk about what would be required, how this might affect the actual